Hello there. You're listening to Oyla, a science podcast for students. We tell stories that make you smarter. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our latest episodes. You can discover even more about science and the world around us in our magazine, so head over to Oyla to check it out.
How do animals exchange information? Do they learn to speak on their own, or do their parents help them? Do they have accents or speech impediments? Can they learn the languages of other species? Everything depends on which animal we're talking about. Hello friends, welcome to Oyla Podcast. Today, we will be talking about animal communication. All organisms exchange energy and materials with one another and with their environments, but they also share information. It's no less important than matter. After all, to stay alive, it's critical to know what's in front of you, what's nearby, with whom you should maintain good relationships, and who should be avoided. To receive information, you need your senses. To pass on information, you need signs, symbols, and, of course, the organs used to produce them. Each sign must correspond to a specific object, quality, or action. If, say, you need to talk about an object, its qualities, and its actions all at once, you will need rules for combining these symbols, grammar. A structured system of signs and a set of rules for combining those symbols is called language. The concept of language is multifaceted. Consider the many ways that people use their bodies and spoken language to communicate, or how people with speech or hearing impairments communicate through sign language. Computer programming facilitates a mathematical language between non-living objects. The form of language we use depends on who or what you communicate with, and what you want to tell them. Animals, for example, have different sensory strengths. Humans and other primates see well, but they don't have a strong sense of smell, while many rodents, like rats and voles and insectivores, moles and hedgehogs, are the opposite. Finally, language abilities also depend on the organism's level of intelligence. Let's find out how the most linguistically gifted animals speak. Fish have long been seen as silent and even unintelligent creatures. But if that's the case, how do they coordinate their movements in giant schools and exchange information? It all depends on the specific species and its habitat. Fish can communicate using sound, electrical impulses, motion, color, smell, and bioluminescence. Water makes it difficult to see distant objects. It is often cloudy, and light can't penetrate to great depths. So in the deepest parts of the ocean, everything grows dark quickly, but communication still needs to happen. The fish that live in complete darkness communicate with bright flashes of bioluminescence. These flashes allow the fish to understand who is in front of them, what size they are, and what they want from them. Torquegenere albomaculosus, the white-spotted pufferfish, has a ritual in which the male creates peculiar patterns on the sandy seabeds to attract females. Pufferfish and deep-sea fish are the exception. After all, those sand patterns take a long time to create, and the fish only make them during mating season. Fish need signals that travel well through water, electricity, and sound. These signals have more in common than what meets the eye. Fish receive both types of signals with the same organ, the lateral line. A row of sensitive cells on the lateral line detects electric pulses, while other receptors perceive movements of water, including sound waves that ripple through the water. In fact, the lateral line system was the evolutionary precursor to the inner ear, which now provides us with hearing and balance. It turns out that all fish can hear. They can talk too, although differently than we do. Fish do not have vocal cords, and most do not have lungs, the air from which would cause the ligaments to fluctuate, producing sound. Instead of lungs, fish have a swim bladder, a gas-filled outgrowth of the anterior part of the intestine, which helps them change depths. By the way, this is how lungs eventually evolved. So, the inhabitants of coral reefs off the coast of Australia and Hawaii, as well as some Californian fish, create sounds by squeezing special muscles on the swim bladder. This organ is connected to the intestine, so the air and the sound signals themselves come from the anus. A variety of catfish, parrotfish, rockfish, and many others knock, pop, and twang while eating in order to attract females, lay eggs, protect their territory, and defend themselves against predators. For every situation, each particular species of fish has its own sound. Songbirds, or song sparrows, are a group of birds of the clade passery. Although not every member of this group sings beautifully, all singing sparrows have a special compartment in their respiratory tract, the lower larynx or syrinx, named after the flute of the ancient Greek god Pan. The structure of the syrinx is indeed similar to the structure of the flute. It is located at the base of the windpipe, where the larynx splits into two trunks of the bronchi. It consists of several cartilaginous rings and membranes capable of vibration. Special muscles change the degree of tension of the membranes and the diameter of the bronchi when air passes through the larynx. Thanks to the syrinx, as well as the presence of air sacs, birds can sing without respite for a long time, and can even sing two notes at the same time. The sounds made by songbirds are very diverse. They can be long, multi-track melodies to attract females, short, jerky cries to get rid of annoying neighbors, or whistles from chicks to get the attention of their parents. Every bird learns all of this throughout its life, and many begin learning before they're born. One Australian bird, the superb fairy wren, Malurus cyanus, starts singing in its nest before its chicks have even hatched. The developing nestling hears these melodies and remembers them. The songs contain something like a password. Once the chicks are hatched, their begging calls must contain this password if they want to be fed. It serves as protection against nest invaders. Cuckoos can't copy sounds, so even if a superb fairy wren hatches one of the cuckoo's eggs, the chick will not be fed. It doesn't know the magic word. Singing parents can tell their unhatched chicks about what awaits them in life. The adult zebra finch, Taeniopigia gutata, sings to its eggs if the temperature outside exceeds 78.8 degrees Fahrenheit. However, the temperature of the eggs does not depend on the conditions outside the nest because their parents warm them. Apparently, this is how the finches prepare their young for life in a hot environment. Chicks who grow up in high temperatures and hear the special songs turn out to be smaller and grow more slowly compared to their counterparts who mature in cooler environments. Perhaps their modest size allows them to cool more effectively. Finches continue the linguistic and musical education of their offspring after they hatch. The adult males sing to male chicks, who remember the sounds and subsequently make similar calls themselves. In the brains of finches, some cells respond to the sounds of any birds, while others react only to the ones made by their parents. Many songbirds are territorial and try not to let anyone on their land, and their chicks rarely fly away from them. Because of this, their neighbors are often related to them and speak in a similar way. That's how dialects, regional varieties of language, come about. Songbirds learn to distinguish these dialects as they grow older. This was shown in the study of the golden-crowned sparrow, Zonotrichia atricapilla. Golden-crowned sparrow chicks react poorly to the sounds of birds, but once they reach the age of singing, they begin to actively respond to the words of the same dialect, although they stay indifferent to the rest of the sounds. Birds often rely on sounds to communicate with one another because they hear perfectly, but distinct visual demonstrations also play a significant role. These include flights along a particular trajectory, pipits and warblers, spreading tail and wing feathers, male peacocks, and displaying brightly colored patches of skin, ruffs, and large frigate birds. Birds can see in 4 colors, ultraviolet, blue, green, and red, unlike our 3-color blue, green, red vision. So some of their visual displays can go unnoticed by us. However, most birds don't have a well-developed sense of smell, so they rarely communicate via chemical signals. Since birds are able to learn new sounds, they can, in theory, remember sounds unrelated to the language of their species. Not everyone is capable of it, only the smartest. Many passerine birds have this ability: common hill mynas, Gracula religiosa, common starlings, Sturnus vulgaris, a variety of mockingbirds of the genus Mimus, western jackdaws, Corvus monedula, and hooded crows, Corvus cornix. As a rule, they borrow the words of others only when they need to, but their knowledge of these words is limited to 1 to 2 dozen. The same applies to most parrots. Parrots have a fleshy tongue, and in this way it's similar to the human tongue. This is why they can partially imitate human speech, and male parrots are typically better at it. Not all parrots are able to recombine the words in learned structures or build new phrases, so you can't say that they speak just like people. Only one parrot is really capable of mastering human speech, the gray parrot, Psittacus erythacus. The most famous gray parrot was named Alex, and he could say about 100 words that were taught to him by animal behaviorist Irene Pepperberg. She carefully selected the most common English words and simplified the grammar. During training, Alex not only mimicked Irene, but also watched as she communicated with another person in gray parrot English. Observing how words are used in different situations, he began to build his own sentences to describe what was happening around him. Alex could describe an object even if he saw it for the first time or ask for something. In short, unlike many other birds, this gray parrot understood why certain words are needed. Unfortunately, at the modest age of 31, Alex died unexpectedly. Irene Pepperberg's work with talking birds, however, was not finished, and she and her colleagues continued to train other gray parrots, Arthur, Griffin, and Athena. Apes' sensory organs are close in structure to those of humans. Their vocal cords are similar to ours too, though the sounds they make bear little resemblance to human speech. Gorillas, common chimpanzees, usually referred to simply as chimpanzees, and bonobos are much more likely to communicate via gestures. Most likely, the basis of these anthropoid sign language developed in their common ancestor. Scientists make this hypothesis because chimpanzee and orangutan signals overlap by 80%, chimpanzee and gorilla signals by 60%, and chimpanzee and bonobo signals by 90%. The meanings of these gestures in different species tend to coincide most of the time. If bonobos and common chimpanzees met in the wild, they would almost certainly understand one another. Many have tried to teach captive gorillas, bonobos, and chimpanzees human sign languages, especially a simplified version of ASL, American Sign Language, as well as Yerkish, a set of symbols especially created for non-human primates which features lexicograms, each of which words were taught to him more rigorously, and he now knows all existing Yerkish symbols. His talent for learning by imitation and his keen interest in all things new didn't fail him in the case of ASL either. He added signs to his lexicon, which he learned from watching a video of Coco conversing with scientists. Like Coco in her own time, he freely constructs phrases and individual words, can talk about what he cannot see directly in front of him, compares objects, and shows other indicators of abstract thinking. This is a very high level of language proficiency that is not qualitatively different from that of humans.
You've been listening to a podcast brought to you by Oyla, a science magazine for students. Please subscribe and check out our website, Oyla, for more information.